In the Emerald Hills of Britain, in the mid-1st century, a new power had arrived, a force of unmatched ambition: Rome. 1. The legions of Rome, masters of conquest and organization, had begun to forge their own version of civilization in Britain. Their iron fist, however, was about to be met with an unyielding spirit, a fire that would ignite one of the most unforgettable rebellions in history. And at its heart, a warrior unlike any the Romans had ever faced. Her name was Boudica, queen of the Iceni tribe, a name that for a brief and terrifying time would send shivers down the spines of Roman emperors and their legionaries. But the path that forged for this queen of rebellion was far from smooth. Boudica was not born a warrior. She was first and foremost a woman of her people, the wife of King Prasutagus, a leader who had managed to maintain a fragile peace with the encroaching Roman power, in part through an alliance. But as the sands of time shifted, this peace would soon be shattered. When Prasutagus died, he left his kingdom, and by extension, his family, in a precarious position. The Romans, as usual, had other plans. It was declared that the lands and wealth would be transferred to Rome, not inherited by his daughters, a blatant disregard for Celtic custom. This was more than a land grab. It was a brutal insult to the very fabric of Iceni society that was the spark. When the Roman soldiers, led by the procurator Catus Decianus, arrived to enforce these cruel dictates, their actions were a violent outrage. Boudica was flogged, her daughters were abused. It was an act of blatant humiliation designed to break not just a family, but an entire tribe. But the Romans had made a grave miscalculation. They thought they were dealing with a conquered people. They were wrong. The news spread like wildfire across Britain. A queen had been humiliated, a family violated. The simmering anger against the Roman occupation had finally found its outlet. Tribe after tribe began to rise up, drawn by Boudica's call to arms. The Iceni were not alone in their fury. Boudica now found herself at the head of a powerful force, not just the Iceni, but the Trinovantes, the Cornovantes, the Cornovi, and many others. A coalition united by a shared desire to drive the Romans from their lands. What had once been a cry for justice had become a fight for freedom. The rebellion erupted with terrifying speed and ferocity. Camulodunum, the Roman capital of Britain, was the first target. It fell with astonishing speed. Veteran legionaries, accustomed to dominating weaker opponents, were quickly overwhelmed. Their large villas sacked and burned. This was no conventional battle. It was a massacre. News of the devastation reached Londinium. The Roman governor Suetonius Paulinus was far to the west, campaigning on the island of Mona. The few Roman troops stationed in Londinium stood no chance against Boudica's furious forces. They evacuated, leaving the city to its fate. Londinium, a center of Roman trade and power, was burned to the ground. Along with Verulamium, it became another monument to the unbridled fury of the rebellion. The Roman presence in Britain was on its knees, seemingly on the verge of total collapse. Boudica's forces were relentless and unforgiving, but the Roman response was coming. Suetonius Paulinus with his legions was on the way, and he was not about to let this rebellion go unpunished. He carefully chose a battlefield, a strategically advantageous location, and waited for Boudica's massive army. The two forces finally clashed, a cataclysm of metal and fury. On one side, Boudica's vast numbers of warriors and their unyielding ferocity. On the other, the brutal efficiency of the Roman legions, their years of training and discipline. The battle was savage, a chaotic dance of death. Despite the initial surge of the Celtic charge, the Roman lions held firm. Their disciplined formations proved too much for the tribal forces to overcome. The battle turned into a massacre, the ground stained red with the blood of thousands. The exact details of Boudica's fate are still debated. Some say she fell on the battlefield, leading her people to her dying breath. Others say she poisoned herself to avoid capture by the Romans. Whatever the truth, her defeat at the hands of Paulinus marked the end of the rebellion, and a brutal end for many of her people. The rebellion was crushed. Retribution was swift and relentless. Thousands of Celtic men, women, and children were slaughtered. The Romans reasserted their rule with brutal efficiency, further subjugating the tribes of Britain. But Boudica's name, her legend, lived on. Boudica became more than just a queen, a leader, or a warrior. She became a symbol of resistance, of defiance against tyranny. Her story is a testament to the indomitable human spirit, the burning desire for freedom, even against insurmountable odds. And her name to this day reigns in the pages of history as the queen who dared to challenge the power of Rome.